To put it into perspective, the Italian army used for their small arms 11 different sized caliber bullets. And so that's 11 different weapons to supply, whereas the British tended to just use 303s for all small arms. The Italians had a wide variety of different bullet sizes, and of course you can't use the wrong size bullet in the gun. It was an incredibly difficult task to supply an Italian army and to produce enough supplies for them, hence why they had to send so many men home. But despite these problems, General Graziani still had 167,000 men and 300 tanks to face 36,000 British soldiers in Egypt. The Italian army advanced 40 miles to Sidi Barini and then stopped. In the Atlantic, the U-boats are still causing carnage, with the bulk of the British destroyers guarding the channel against invasion. They're not available to protect the convoys. In total, 865 merchant ships would be sunk in 1940, but not all of those are British. They do include neutral shipping heading for Britain. All of those lost are outside of convoys, but the British convoy escorts are either protecting against invasion, or those that are left lack the range to guard the mid-Atlantic. Now, Italy overran the undefended British colony of Somaliland, but was running horribly short of food. On the 10th of November, another 750,000 Italian soldiers, out of an army of 1.5 million, had to be sent home due to food shortages in the army. Now, Mussolini finds himself in a nightmare position, in a war alongside a bullying, dominant ally, with Britain getting stronger, not weaker. And on the 12th of October, he was given the news that German units were moving into Romania, which he considered part of Italian sphere of influence. Now, as it happens, there are only anti-aircraft units to defend the vital oil fields of Ploesti, but Mussolini is paranoid about Germany muscling in on his territory. And so he plans to regain the prestige of Italy by invading Greece in alliance with Bulgaria. But he didn't think to ask Bulgaria first, and when he does announce the plans to the Bulgarians that Italy and Bulgaria will both invade Greece, Bulgaria politely refuses. On the 19th of October, Mussolini rejects the German plan to bring Vichy France into the war as a German ally, and refused the offer of German troops for North Africa, and said that he would plan instead to invade Greece from Albania. Now, Greece has an army of 300,000 men and knew the Italians were coming. The invasion began on the 28th of October. The Greek army outfought the Italians, and by the 1st of November they had broken the Italian lines. By the 4th of November, the Italian army had been pushed back into Albania, humiliated. Worse, on the 11th of November, the Royal Navy launched Operation Judgment, cooperating with spotter aircraft flying out of Malta. The Italian fleet have 6 battleships, 14 cruisers, 27 destroyers, all in port at Taranto. The British Admiral Cunningham ordered his carriers to launch a port strike. 2 waves of Swordfish biplane bombers launched from HMS Illustrious. 2 of these Swordfish are shot down, but the raid is an incredible success. 1 Italian battleship is sunk, another 2 are crippled, as were an Italian heavy cruiser and 2 destroyers. For Italy, it's a catastrophe. They have lost the use of half of their battleships in a single day to an attack from a single British aircraft carrier launching biplane bombers. It's an incredible action by Cunningham, and is used as an inspiration by the Japanese, who examine the raid on Taranto and use it for their planning on Pearl Harbor. Now, this blow would soon be followed by another disaster in Egypt, as the British launch Operation Compass from December 1940 to February 1941. 150 tanks had left Britain for Egypt at the height of the Battle of Britain, as Churchill decides that he will gamble on these vehicles not being used and needed for the home defence. As it happens, of course, it's the right gamble to take. The British are determined to fight in the Middle East because the British are determined to fight somewhere against the Axis and had chosen the Mediterranean. They believed that some successes in the Med would keep Spain out of the war, would make Italy a liability to Germany, and could also, if they were really successful, threaten the Ploesti oil fields that were supplying the Germans with the bulk of their oil for their war effort. The rest of it was coming from Russia, of course, as part of the Nazi-Soviet pact. Now, since October 1940, the Rifle Brigade had been scouting out the Italian positions in the desert and launching raids. General O'Connor, the British commander in Egypt, knew that he was outnumbered 4-1, but had decided on a daring plan of attack regardless. With 7th Armoured Division and the 4th Indian Division, he attacked on the 9th of December, achieving complete surprise over the vast Italian army. By the 11th, these 36,000 British and British Imperial troops had captured 38,300 Italians, 237 guns, and 73 tanks, attacking the Italians from 3 sides, including from behind, as they'd infiltrated through from the desert. By the 25th of December, the British had pushed the Italians out of Egypt, and then, reinforced by the 6th Australian Division, pushed on into Libya. Meanwhile, the 4th Indian Division was actually withdrawn from the offensive to be sent to fight the Italians in East Africa. Bardia in Libya was soon surrounded. Now, back in Britain, however, the Blitz was taking a terrible toll on British civilians. In September, 7,000 were killed, 10,000 wounded. In October, 8,000 killed and 8,000 wounded. In November, another 5,000 killed and 6,000 wounded. On the 14th of November, Coventry had been hit by 450 bombers, the largest attack so far, and what was a terrible psychological blow to the British. In revenge, 100 British bombers attacked Hamburg. But it is clear that the RAF are desperately in need of night fighters to stop the Blitz. Those Hurricanes and Spitfires are of little use as night fighters, and the British are using things like Defiance, turret fighter, in an attempt to jury-rig night fighters. Meanwhile, however, Hitler was starting to plan for the invasion of Russia, to beat Britain in the east. He's convinced that if he can beat Russia, which of course is at the moment supplying Germany, the British will realise that they can't possibly win the war and will surrender. But in his defence, what else can he do? The British have won the Battle of Britain, they control the seas, and they're getting stronger by the day. Where can Germany actually beat Britain? They've got the Blitz trying to bomb Britain into submission. The U-boat is trying to starve the British into submission. But this vast German army, where can it be used against a Britain that controls the sea lanes? And so he decides that Russia will be key. In December 1940, the Luftwaffe arrive in Sicily to try and help the Italians. On the 14th of December, the Germans start to plan for an invasion of Greece to help their allies, the Italians. But in the desert, things continue to go from bad to worse for the Italians. On the 5th of January, the British capture Bardia and another 45,000 Italians and 130 tanks. To capture these 45,000 Italians, the Australians suffer just 500 casualties. On the 7th of January, the British surround the port of Tobruk. The 4th Indian Division in East Africa start to prepare to renew their offensive in the east. On the 22nd of January, Tobruk falls, with another 25,000 Italians, 208 guns, and 87 tanks. And the invasion of East Africa begins on the 24th of January. In East Africa, there are 250,000 Italian troops stranded in Abyssinia and Somalia. And the British are now coming for them too, as well as beating the Italian army in Libya hollow. In February, General Cunningham launches a full-scale assault on Abyssinia, with East African and South African troops reinforcing the Indian army fighting in East Africa. And on the 12th of February, in Libya, General O'Connor captures another 20,000 Italians, another 200 Italian guns, and another 120 Italian tanks, with just 3,000 British soldiers. As Anthony Eden, the British Foreign Minister, said, never had so much been surrendered to so few. That same day, however, General Rommel arrived in Libya. And there we will leave the story of Britain's Second World War for today.